Yeah, Alex, Lincoln just told us Woody's going to be out for a while. So are you comfortable with where you guys are at cornerback moving forward?
Yeah, we'll constantly look at it. We talked before about trying to play the best five guys. So with between safeties, nickels, and corners. So that's something that constantly, whether healthy or not, they constantly evaluate. I think at this time last year, I may have the wrong exact date, but I think Woody was still playing safety and then moved him into a cornerback role. Trey Norwood at this point last year was still rotating a little bit at corner. So anyway, that goes on over the course of the season, but certainly that's something that we'll continue to look at. But got some young guys out there that have held up okay, but need more production from the position. So the long and short of it, we'll continue to evaluate it.
Yeah, Alex, with this stretch to start the season of 9 consecutive games, when you're looking at rotation, especially as you get to this point of the season where things generally tighten up a little bit, how do you manage the present versus the big picture of getting through this stretch without a bye?
Yeah, I think it's a great point, and it's one that is constantly, if it's not on the back of our minds, it's something that certainly you got to evaluate. And part of that, so much of it really is the day in and day out preparation standpoint. And we structure our week in a way that Monday is such a mental day. Tuesday and Wednesday are those opportunities to have competitive reps in practice, full speed. Dial back a little bit on Thursday and Friday. So in terms of the structure of what we do, we believe in it, and then moving forward, I think it's something that we'll stay consistent with. But who gets those reps on Tuesdays and Wednesdays? Is there somehow, some way you can manipulate those things to give those guys that say have 500 reps of experience over their career versus 1,000 reps of experience versus the young guys that quite frankly need every single snap of it. So all that stuff factors into it. But that's a real hurdle, and obviously your chief focus is on that particular week. Let's be good week 9. If you're not good week 4, doesn't do you any good. So no, it's something to be conscious of, but really pinpointing who gets those reps on Tuesdays and Wednesdays are the critical aspect of things, which then means those mental reps become that much more paramount that guys take advantage of.
Alex, when you got here, how tough was that to instill the mindset of 40, 50 snaps at your best is better than 80, 90, and you're just out there?
Yeah, I think in some ways initially it was probably a welcome change for some guys. And instead of being so quick to trigger into survival mode, and I think guys kind of saw the impact. Okay, wait a second. So my production isn't necessarily tied to playing every snap on Saturday. In fact, in a lot of ways, production went up as the snap count went down. Now there's obviously a give and take there. At some point, obviously going to be on the field to make plays, but that's our chief goal is to not allow guys to simply survive Saturday. When we take them out of the game, I think we've talked about this, is not to give them rest, but so that they can play at their best. Now, the position for those guys underneath them is how critical it is that they show themselves well when they get opportunities in games, and also show themselves well over the course of the week, so that we're able to rotate the way we like to rotate. If there's a severe drop-off, that's a luxury that we don't have. But the motivation for some of those guys underneath is, okay, I'll play the starter. That's another thing that hasn't happened here enough in terms of the depth chart changing on a week in and week out basis. So encourage those guys that are in the in a backup role to, who says you're only going to get 11 snaps or 15 snaps or 20 snaps, whatever it is. Why can't it be 30 and 30? And so challenge those guys that way. But no, there's a tipping point in terms of rep counts, and for each individual guy, depending on position, that is part of the job as a coach to kind of find out where that is.
In terms of just coverage ability, or how well did you feel like your team actually covered in the back 7 against Nebraska? Yeah,
there's some individual snaps that was frustrated with. Some of it off of play action, some of it off of throwback. Some of it's a vertical on the sideline with poor technique at the cornerback position. And so kind of maybe all over the place in terms of what worked for them in the pass game. Some of it ties into your game plan that particular week. But no, what I continue to look for, and at a minimum I think needs to be at a higher level is being more competitive at the catch point. Play in the end zone. Again, they make a catch and they nice play. All those we've made nice plays too, but and some other opportunities where it's hitting the would-be receiver. As he's catching it, we got to find a way. There's several instances where we got to win some more of those battles as you go through it, and then rally in some situations when it's I don't want to call it a trick play, but kind of a off of play action, some of those things where you got to, throwbacks to tight ends and some of those things. If you're not in man coverage, you got to rally. So a little bit of everything, but specific just the number and as we look at it, pass defense is a tough predictor in terms of overall success defensively. That doesn't mean it doesn't matter. So that's really important that both of those things being true. Is something that you constantly evaluate, but I think we need to make more plays in the pass game.
Yeah, Alex, a couple of weeks ago you said Shane Witter needed more accountability, and it looks like he's playing a lot more. Is that a byproduct of Stutzman injury, or is that he's actually showing more accountability?
No, he's actually shown, and I give him a lot of credit. Coach Hutton does a nice job with that group, but I give him a lot of credit. For some guys that light bulb, in some respects, the light bulb never comes on for some guys, and some guys need, constant prodding that way. And then some guys, unfortunately, they need to get into the season to say, now, wait a second, this stand on the sideline stuff isn't exactly why I chose Oklahoma. And so then they raise their level. And then, the idea from a coaching standpoint is you like, every single guy to say, okay, well, if I want to play out there, I got to change my behavior. Because ultimately behavior is going to lead to the outcomes that you want. And if you get those outcomes that you individually want, there's a pretty good chance we're going to want you on the field. And so, no, I give him credit. And still a young guy in the program, but no, I give Shane credit for doing right.
Alex, I asked Lincoln this, went off Main Street a little bit with this question, but the thigh pads that a lot of your guys are wearing. How aware are you of some of these variations that some of the guys have? And Lincoln said, hey, if the guys have a little window of individuality, it's okay. What do you think about all that?
I make a point not to look at their thighs as a general statement. No, I honestly, I don't notice it, and maybe as much as I otherwise should, type of thing. But I think it's a unique opportunity, I guess, to, like you said, show some individualism that way, and not something you would ever have thought, that's how guys would do it in 2021. But let it rip.
Don't know how I'm going to follow that, but Alex, third down defense got a lot better in the second half. Being able to look back at it, what do you think improved, or was that just a unique challenge of adjusting to what Adrian Martinez can do in the first half over the second half?
Yeah, that's something you always evaluate. You say, okay, what's the success rate, and what is the what's the reason for their success versus our success, and vice versa, and you say, and so you're always looking at that. Some of it, comes down to, getting them off the spot and making a play in the football. It's just as simple as that, or getting them on the ground when you have an opportunity to get them in the backfield. And then some of it you got to analyze as a coach, specifically as a play caller, saying, okay, are we giving this offense too much credit? Are we giving this individual too much credit? And that's a week in and week out basis that you look at. Are we maybe too aggressive from a man coverage standpoint, or are we too passive? The first third down of the game, play to drop 8, cover 2 concept, and you're kicking yourself. Well, you're kicking yourself because they converted it. If it would have worked, maybe that was the right call. But as it stood, it wasn't. So I think as much as anything, especially when you have such a mobile quarterback, those guys give you fits. They always do, and you got to make a decision as a defensive coaching staff whether or not you're going to give them that level of respect. And in Martinez's case, he's been a starting quarterback in Nebraska for 3 years. There's a reason for that, and one of those is his ability to escape and those things. And so, a little bit of everything, but no, we felt that giving him that necessary level of respect in all down and distances was the appropriate thing to do to help us win the football game, and so that's what we chose to do.
Alex, you talked a lot about defensive rotations and substitutions and things today. I was curious about the defensive backfield in particular. The corners were subbed a lot. the safeties were hardly subbed at all. What was your thinking behind that?
Some of it ties back into the last week in practice. Watching guys, on a Tuesday, misremember how to play something defensively that we've been executing for 8 months. I go back to, what's our execution errors in previous ball games? Does that involve one of those individuals? And so some of that is, making guys very well aware that we don't forget what happens on Tuesday. We don't forget what happens on Wednesday, So some of that ties into that. And then other times it ties into the offense. This was a particular offense that formations, a lot of motions. And as you get into the game, you're also getting things that maybe they hadn't done a lot over the course of the year. Well, the guys that are in have seen it now. So now they get a chance to get the cumulative reps over the course of a ball game. Then all of a sudden you sub in and out, that you run the fear of a guy maybe not being able to adjust as well. And so sometimes, specifically in safety, nickel land, so much of what we do defensively in terms of reaction to formations is tied to that position group. That when you get in some of these, option-based offenses, and again, ones that shift trade motion a lot, just inherently the rep count kind of gets geared towards the starters.
Kind of a commentary on how difficult it is to play safety on defense nowadays, and you're making a lot of calls, and you got to trust those guys?
Well, it is, and what you got to decide how much involvement are they going to have in the run game. How aggressive are you going to be with some of the again, shifts, trades, motions? Do you want body on body? If they ran, for instance, a jet sweep, which we had issue with, in week one. You're saying, okay, well, if I got to be aggressive with that, but it could be jet sweep to you, or jet sweep away from, and some of those things. If you're going to be aggressive, then you got to make sure that you got good disciplined eyes, because that could be passed just as well as it could be run. But no, I think in college football now, between safeties and linebackers, there's just constant conflict, and we try to convince the safeties that you're never in a conflict. You're a pass first defender. You're never in conflict. You react to runs, which is sometimes easier said than done. But no, with all the variabilities that offense give you, it's a tall order for those guys.
Any more questions? Got Nick Benson in the back.
You talked specifically about the secondary in coverage earlier. You mentioned the linebackers a moment ago. Curious on the linebackers in coverage whenever they have to drop, kind of whether it's a man principle or zone principle. How do you think they're playing so far this season?
Yeah, I think, specifically in the coverage aspect of things, I think in the play action game, you got to make sure that, if we're dropping 7 guys in coverage, again, that's assuming we're rushing 4, that we need all 7 guys, playable, both in the under coverage and in the deep zones. And so again, the conflict happens a lot, and offenses do that, to put a linebacker in conflict, whether they're going to fit the run, or sit back and play pass, and you got to decide kind of who and what you want to be defensively. We commit a lot to the run. We've had success against the run because of that, and so that. However, when run turns into pass, it's kind of the exact opposite. Safety, it's pass until it's run. The linebacker, it's kind of run until it's pass. But man, we got to take advantage of those indicators they give us when we know it's pass. That individual, he's either blocking or he's going to run a route, and if he's running a route, we better not assume it's run type of thing. So, no, I think overall, just at every level of our defense, in terms of the pass game, we got to make sure that whether it's zone or man, that we're in a position, we have an expectation that we're not there to help the guys sack the quarterback. We're there to make plays when the ball's thrown.
Two more, James Hill.
Alex, the West Virginia offense looks like it's wide open, but talk about that a little bit and what they try to do.
Well, it's a team that, we didn't play a year ago, but prepared at length for, which is just unique as you turn back on the film, because there's no opponent that you've never played or haven't played in 2 years that you've seen so much film on, which is the same thing, obviously, for them on their end. But, no, you talk about good quarterback play. You're going to experience offensive line, skill position, is quality across the board, some size of receiver as well as speed. The use, again, mentioned the jet sweep series. You'll see that on film. Screen game is quality, so that they'll take advantage of it when you got a pass rush. You got to be disciplined that way. And one of the premier running backs in the country to hand the ball off to. So In 2021, you don't get weeks off defensively. We know that in this conference as much as anything else. But another challenge, different ways to attack you formationally, but still you got to recognize all those things that they do and can beat you over top. So again, major challenge.
Jason Person.
Yeah, Alex, wanted to ask you about DJ's play the other day. Have you, in your career, seen anything quite like that before? And secondly, is something like that something that can be taught, or is that something a guy just has?
Yes, we teach that. No, that was a tremendous play, and I highlight again. We had a number of good plays over the course of the game, but we block an extra point. Isaiah Coe does, and Pat. It kind of comes to him as opposed to scooping it up, but goes, how impactful that play was. That play happened after a negative play defensively. Obviously, if it's an extra point, they just scored a touchdown. If we give into our feelings in that moment and we have an emotional reaction to it, what a missed opportunity if we don't play that next play. And no one makes you do it, right, if you're out there. Specifically on that one, it's the same thing with DJ. There's a reason they got down there. And so now we got to respond to it. And he's, on a boundary side wide receiver that comes to the field. He's in elite position on that. The ball's in the air, and he goes make a play on it. No, I thought it was a tremendous play in every way. And like every position, like a quarterback, if you throw one touchdown, that doesn't mean you had a great day, right? You got to continue to elevate. You got to be, from a consistency standpoint, we got to make sure that the consistency comes with that. But to absolutely give him that's one most humans don't make. So I give him, again, all the credit that he deserved.